Welcome to Tech Disruptions, deep dives into the technologies reshaping industries, from AI to quantum to biotech. Let's get into it.
The common narrative often focuses on AI making mistakes, or perhaps even hallucinating. But what if the AI isn't just making an error? What if it's being actively hijacked?
That's precisely the unsettling reality revealed by recent research, which describes something it calls the YOLO Mode Heist. It's not about an AI going rogue on its own. It's about a specific type of infrastructure being weaponized to redirect AI agents for malicious purposes, specifically crypto theft.
YOLO mode heist. That sounds less like a technical glitch and more like a targeted high-stakes operation. What kind of infrastructure is being discussed here?
The focus is on what are being termed malicious LLM routers, a piece of middleware, and the scale isn't theoretical. The research points to the identification of at least 26 such malicious routers already at play in the wild, actively facilitating these digital heists.
So, to unpack that term, YOLO mode heist, it's catchy, but what does it really signify in the context of AI agents? What are these agents doing that makes them susceptible to this kind of attack?
At its core, an AI agent is designed to be autonomous. Think of it as a software entity that can perceive its environment, make decisions, and take actions to achieve a specific goal, often interacting with other systems or the real world. Many current AI applications are moving towards these agentic capabilities, where they don't just answer a prompt, but execute a series of steps to fulfill a complex request.
Like an AI personal assistant that doesn't just tell you the weather, but actually books your flight, orders your groceries, or manages your investment portfolio.
Precisely. And this autonomy is both their strength and, as this research highlights, a critical vulnerability. The YOLO mode aspect implies a lack of proper oversight or guardrails, where these agents are operating with a you only live once mentality, executing commands without sufficient checks or balances. It's not just a philosophical term, it's a descriptor for a systemic vulnerability, where the agent's actions are essentially unmonitored once initiated, or at least not monitored by the intended party.
So it's not the AI itself deciding to steal crypto. It's being tricked into it because of how it's set up to operate autonomously and without proper supervision. It sounds like a sophisticated form of social engineering, but for code.
That's an apt comparison. It's less about the AI model itself being inherently flawed or malicious, and more about the environment and the instructions it receives being compromised. Imagine if an automated system designed to manage finances was given instructions by what it perceived to be an authorized source, but that source had been secretly swapped out by an attacker. The agent is simply following its programming, but that programming, or the routing of its tasks, has been maliciously altered.
So the heist isn't the agent inventing a plan, it's the agent being given a plan by a bad actor who's inserted themselves into the communication chain. This sounds like the AI is an unwitting accomplice, not the mastermind.
Exactly. The sophistication of this attack lies in targeting the orchestration layer, not necessarily the core intelligence of the AI. It exploits the trust inherent in autonomous systems and the often complex chains of command these agents follow. For example, an agent might be tasked with initiating a cryptocurrency transfer. If the middleware that directs this agent's actions is malicious, it can alter the destination wallet address without the agent itself ever knowing it's doing something wrong, or without the end user ever seeing the fraudulent instruction. It simply executes the modified command.
So the agent thinks it's doing its job, sending funds to wallet A, but thanks to this YOLO mode and malicious middleware, the funds actually go to wallet B, controlled by the attacker?
That's the mechanism in a nutshell. The agent's perception of its environment, or more accurately, the directives it receives, are manipulated at an intermediary stage, leading to unintended and malicious outcomes. The YOLO mode becomes critical here because these agents often operate at high speed, making numerous decisions, and if the guardrails, the human oversight or internal validation, are not robust enough or entirely absent, the damage can accrue very quickly before it's even detected. This is what makes it a heist rather than just a simple bug. It's an intentional, surreptitious diversion of assets or actions.
That makes a lot of sense. The problem isn't necessarily the AI's internal logic, but what's sitting between the instruction and the AI's execution. And you mentioned this is happening through something called LLM routers or middleware. Can you explain what these are and why they're such a critical point of vulnerability?
Absolutely. Think of LLM routers as the traffic controllers or dispatchers for AI agents. When an AI agent needs to perform a task, especially a complex one, it often doesn't just call one large language model. It might need to interact with several different models, external tools, databases, or APIs. The router's job is to orchestrate these interactions. It decides which model gets called for which part of a task, or which external tool is appropriate for a specific subgoal.
So if an AI agent is asked to plan a trip to Tokyo, the router might send part of that request to a flight booking model, another part to a hotel search model, and yet another to a local restaurant guide API.
Exactly. It's the nerve center that directs the flow of information and tasks. This middleware is crucial for making agents efficient and capable of handling diverse, real-world problems. The problem arises when this router, this critical intermediary, becomes compromised or is intentionally designed to be malicious.
So it's like a central switchboard. If the switchboard operator is bad, all the calls go to the wrong place. But how does this middleware become malicious? Is it being hacked, or are people intentionally building these malicious routers?
The research doesn't always specify the initial vector of compromise for all 26 identified routers, but it points to both possibilities. Some could be legitimate routers that have been infiltrated or tampered with by external attackers. Others might be purpose-built, deployed by malicious actors directly into systems where they anticipate AI agents will be operating. Regardless of how they become malicious, their function remains the same. They intercept and alter the intended communication or action pathway of the AI agent.
So it's not just a flaw that someone could exploit, it's an active, deployed threat. It's like finding that a significant number of air traffic control towers are secretly rerouting flights for nefarious purposes.
That analogy is quite strong. These routers act as a man in the middle, but specifically for AI agent interactions. They can inject new instructions, modify existing ones, or redirect the agent's output to an attacker-controlled endpoint. For instance, if an AI agent is instructed to fetch data from a secure database, a malicious router could intercept that request, tell the agent to send the data to a different, insecure server, and then still tell the agent that the original task was completed successfully. The agent is none the wiser, and the sensitive data is exfiltrated.
And because these agents are operating in YOLO mode without constant human oversight or robust internal validation, these altered commands just get executed without question.
Precisely. The YOLO mode amplifies the impact of the malicious router. If there were strong, continuous verification loops, the agent or the overarching system might flag an anomaly. But in systems designed for speed and autonomy, where the agent is trusted to execute, this intermediary layer becomes an incredibly powerful choke point for an attacker. It's a sophisticated attack because it doesn't try to break the AI model, but rather manipulates its operational environment. It's exploiting the seams in the complex architecture of modern AI systems.
So, to delve into the mechanics, how does a malicious LLM router actually perform this hijacking? Can you walk through a concrete example of how it might lead to something like crypto theft?
Certainly. Imagine an AI agent configured to manage a company's cryptocurrency treasury. Its task might be to periodically rebalance portfolios or to execute approved payments. When a legitimate command comes in, say transfer X amount of Bitcoin to wallet A for vendor payment, this command first passes through the LLM router.
So the router is the gatekeeper for these instructions.
Exactly. A malicious router would then intercept that instruction. Instead of letting it pass through unmodified, it might subtly alter the destination address from wallet A to wallet B, where wallet B is controlled by the attacker. The rest of the instruction, the amount, the currency, the reason for the transaction, could remain identical.
So the agent receives what looks like a legitimate instruction, but with a critical malicious modification.
Precisely. From the AI agent's perspective, it has received a valid instruction to transfer funds to a specified wallet. It executes the transfer, dutifully completing its task as programmed. The funds are sent to the attacker's wallet, and the agent reports successful completion. The legitimate wallet A never receives the funds.
That's incredibly insidious because the agent itself hasn't been reprogrammed or compromised in its core functionality. It's just been given a bad instruction by a trusted intermediary. It would be hard to trace that back initially, wouldn't it?
Extremely difficult. The logs might show the agent executing the transfer exactly as it was told. The problem lies one layer up, at the routing stage. It's like a postal worker being instructed to deliver a package to 123 Main Street, but a malicious supervisor has secretly swapped the label to 456 Oak Avenue. The postal worker does their job, delivers the package, but it goes to the wrong, malicious address.
So the YOLO mode part here is that the agent isn't cross-referencing the instruction with a separate, unalterable ledger of approved addresses or asking for human verification for every transaction.
In many cases, yes. The drive for automation and efficiency often means minimizing such checks for routine operations. If an agent is designed to execute hundreds or thousands of microtransactions, adding human review or external verification to each step would defeat the purpose of its autonomy and speed. This is the vulnerability that the malicious routers exploit. They prey on the expected trust and efficiency of the agentic workflow.
And this isn't just about changing an address. Could it also trick an agent into revealing sensitive information, like an API key or a seed phrase for a crypto wallet?
Absolutely. The manipulation isn't limited to transaction redirection. A malicious router could modify a query to an agent, prompting it to access and relay sensitive credentials, internal network configurations, or proprietary data under the guise of a legitimate data retrieval task. For example, an agent tasked with compiling a financial report might be subtly prompted by a malicious router to include API keys or database connection strings in that report, which then get exfiltrated.
So instead of direct theft, it's intelligence gathering for future attacks. It's a fundamental breach of the integrity of the AI agent's operations, making it an unwilling participant in its own compromise.
That's precisely the danger. The agent, in its autonomous YOLO mode operation, becomes a conduit for theft or espionage, all because an unseen layer, the middleware, has been subverted. The difficulty for organizations is identifying this subversion because the agent itself appears to be functioning perfectly according to the compromised instructions it received.
This all sounds incredibly sophisticated and hard to detect. The research specifically mentions the identification of 26 malicious LLM routers. How were these discovered, and what does that number tell us about the current scale of this threat?
The specific methodologies for identifying all 26 aren't exhaustively detailed in the summary, but the very fact that such a precise number exists suggests active threat intelligence gathering and analysis. It implies that security researchers are not just theorizing about these vulnerabilities, but are actively tracking and cataloging instances of malicious middleware in operation.
So this isn't just a theoretical vulnerability that could exist, it's a proven active threat factor being exploited right now.
Exactly. The 26 identified routers serve as concrete evidence that this isn't merely academic speculation. It's a real-world problem with tangible impact, as indicated by the link to crypto theft. This number, while seemingly small, is likely just the tip of the iceberg. Identifying these sorts of insidious, man-in-the-middle attacks, especially within complex AI ecosystems, is incredibly challenging.
Why is it so challenging to identify? Because the AI agent itself seems to be operating correctly.
That's a major part of it. The agent doesn't throw an error, it doesn't act maliciously in the conventional sense. It simply follows the instructions it's given. The malicious activity is a subtle alteration before the instruction reaches the agent. Detection would require deep visibility into the entire agentic workflow, from the initial user request through every layer of middleware to the final execution and verification of outcomes.
It sounds like needing to monitor every single packet of data that passes through a network, but specifically looking for subtle alterations in the instructions themselves, not just traffic patterns.
A very precise analogy. It's about content integrity at every handoff point. Furthermore, many organizations are rapidly deploying AI agents, and often the security frameworks for these new architectures are still evolving. There's a race between deployment and securing these complex distributed systems. The fact that 26 have been found indicates that attackers are already exploiting this gap.
And what does this imply for broader adoption of AI agents, especially in high-stakes environments like finance, healthcare, or critical infrastructure? If the very dispatchers of AI tasks can be compromised, it undermines the trust in the entire system.
It raises profound questions about the trustworthiness of autonomous AI systems. If the middleware layer, which is meant to facilitate and optimize agent operations, can be subverted to facilitate theft or data exfiltration, then the entire chain of trust is broken. Organizations relying on AI agents for critical functions need to understand that the threat isn't just about the robustness of the AI model itself, but the integrity of its operational environment. The incentives for attackers are clear. If you can compromise this layer, you gain control over highly automated, high-value operations.
So while crypto theft is the immediate, tangible consequence highlighted here, the potential implications of this YOLO mode heist must extend far beyond just digital currency, right? What other areas could be vulnerable to this kind of middleware hijacking?
Absolutely. Crypto theft is just one highly visible application because of the clear financial incentives. But consider any domain where AI agents are granted autonomy and interact with sensitive systems. Imagine an AI agent tasked with managing medical records or dispensing medication in a hospital. A malicious router could alter patient data, reroute medication orders, or even prompt the agent to release confidential health information.
So instead of financial theft, it could be data exfiltration or even physical harm if agents are controlling machinery.
Precisely. Or in industrial control systems, an agent managing a factory floor could be tricked into altering production parameters, causing equipment damage or creating unsafe conditions. And cybersecurity itself, an AI agent monitoring for threats, could have its alerts rerouted or suppressed by a malicious router, essentially blinding the security operations center to an ongoing attack.
It sounds like this isn't just about financial loss, but about systemic integrity and potentially even safety. And what makes this so difficult to defend against? Is it just the stealth of the attack or something more fundamental?
It's multifaceted. The stealth is certainly a major factor. The attack happens in a layer that's often abstract and not directly visible to the end user or even the agent itself. Also, the complexity of modern AI agent architectures means there are many potential points of interception. As systems scale, the number of middleware components and external integrations grows, increasing the attack surface.
So the very tools designed to make AI agents more capable and efficient, these routers and middleware, are precisely what's making them vulnerable to this kind of subtle, insidious attack?
There's an inherent tension there. To achieve autonomy and scale, agents need these orchestration layers. But every additional layer introduces a new potential point of failure or compromise. The research highlights that the focus can't just be on securing the foundational large language models, or even the agents themselves. It must extend to the entire operational stack, especially the intermediary components that direct traffic and interpret commands.
Given the novelty and the complexity of this threat, does the research offer any clear paths forward, any immediate solutions or architectural shifts that could mitigate this?
The source material as a high-level alert doesn't delve into detailed preventative measures. However, the implication is clear. Robust security practices need to be extended to every component of an AI agent's operational environment, not just the core AI. This would likely involve stringent access controls for middleware, continuous monitoring of router behavior for anomalies, and potentially cryptographic signing or integrity checks for instructions passing between layers. It's about treating these dispatchers with the same level of security scrutiny as the agents they manage.
So it's not a simple patch, it's a fundamental rethinking of how these complex AI systems are secured from the ground up.
A fair summary. This isn't just about guarding the AI, it's about guarding the instructions the AI receives and the paths it takes to execute them.
This has been a fascinating and frankly quite unsettling look at a new vector of AI exploitation. As the discussion wraps up, what are the most critical takeaways listeners should keep in mind about the YOLO mode heist and malicious middleware?
First, recognize that AI agents aren't just prone to internal errors, they are vulnerable to external, targeted manipulation at the infrastructural level.
So it's not just about guarding against AI going off script, but against something else putting it on a malicious script.
Precisely. Second, the middleware, specifically LLM routers, is emerging as a critical attack surface. These orchestrators, designed to facilitate AI agent operations, can be subverted to hijack agent actions.
They are the hidden choke points in the AI workflow.
Third, the consequences are concrete and immediate, as evidenced by the identified link to crypto theft, but the potential for broader harm, from data exfiltration to operational disruption, is immense.
So while the immediate target is financial, the blueprint applies to any high-stakes autonomous system.
Absolutely. And finally, securing AI systems now demands a holistic approach that extends beyond the AI models themselves to encompass the entire operational stack, especially these intermediary routing and orchestration layers. It's an architectural security challenge.
It sounds like there's a need to start thinking about the integrity of the dispatch system for AI, not just the integrity of the AI vehicle itself.
Indeed, it forces a reevaluation of trust, not just in the AI, but in the entire ecosystem that enables its autonomy.
That leaves some big questions. As more and more critical infrastructure becomes reliant on these autonomous AI agents, how thoroughly is every layer of middleware they pass through being scrutinized? And what are the real long-term implications of building a digital economy where the very dispatchers of AI tasks can be secretly compromised for a YOLO Mode heist?
That's all for this episode of Tech Disruptions. Join us next time as we keep exploring the technologies reshaping our world. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Stay curious out there.